Hi again, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed that last session. We're now coming to the end of today's workshop, but before I wrap things up, I would like to briefly hand over to my co-convener, Saeed Bagheri of SLS, to make some closing remarks. Thanks, Saeed.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks, Georgia. Well, to be honest, I was asked to give to some closing remarks, but unfortunately, I missed the last part. The last part of this event, which is a shame. But unfortunately, I make it out because I was teaching all day. Anyway, I hope everyone joined this event today. When I was reading the abstracts, I was really impressed with topics, and at least in the last event, the last panel 7 that I was chairing, I really enjoyed. But we didn't have time. I still have many questions to direct to our speakers. Again, I really, to be honest, I don't have many, points or different things to add to excellent contributions that you have today. But I would like to highlight what we mentioned previously in our call for this event, that international law still remains a state-centric set of rules that where the primary subjects of international law still are state members of the UN. But from my perspective, I think what remains in question is that although individuals and non-state actors are playing a significant role in the evolution of international law, or perhaps its implementation and of course its enforcement, we just need to remember that they are always shadowed by states as the primary subjects of international law. But I do believe that it would be convenient just to observe that international law is not or should not be, just should not have the states as the primary subjects because of the undeniable role of non-state actors in the contemporary international law. That are the only things that I can say. So just we need to consider, even when we're teaching to international law students, I'm just trying to mention that we have different categories of non-state actors, but we need to consider them as part of this international legal system. And the fact that there is a space to think and reflect on some critical legal questions, such as why we have states, or perhaps the harm posed by all states against public order that they provide, or perhaps the impact and the pressures of developed countries against developing countries, and whether this is a question that I'm trying to ask to all people. Specifically our students and also perhaps our panelists today, that whether there is an alternative way to construct international legal system. Well, this is significantly important, and of course, in the meantime, this becomes more prominent when it comes to non-international conflict. Because, to be honest, I'm international lawyer. I'm doing research on international and non-international armed conflict, specifically non-state armed groups. So this is also important and relevant to the important role of non-state actors in terms of the formation of international law, even in treaty or customary international law. And as you know already, it is now widely accepted by the international community that international humanitarian law is applicable to all parties in non-international conflict. But unfortunately, as we can see, the majority of non-state armed groups around the world, they do ignore the applicable the rules of international law, purely arguing that they have never been part of those international regulations. They have never been engaged in the formation of that specific rules of international law. Again, to me, this is a question of whether and to what extent territorial states identify the legal status and the legal personality of non-state armed groups, just for the sake of individual protection during non-international conflicts. and of course, what we know that there are continuing arguments on the impacts of the identification of the legal status of such armed groups on the sovereignty of states. There are many cases, for example, cases from Turkey or Colombia, that they have tried to justify the unlawful killings just because they do not recognize the legal status and legal personality of non-state armed groups who just party to a non-international conflict. But anyway, I hope these are sort of some questions that that we just need to address. Again, it is pretty clear to me, at least, that negotiation and and then building trust between states and non-state actors, specifically during conflict, at some point, require the territorial states to consider the legal personality of non-state armed groups, just in order to stop the cycle of violence. This is what I hope that at least we can see in practice at some point. Well, I hope these sort of academic events and discussions will help us to think critically, particularly in order to contribute to the existing legal discussion in relation to the legal personality of non-state actors, and how they can contribute to the formation of international law, in particular customary international law, and of course new international legal standards, which would enable them in some ways to contribute and to subscribe to international accountability frameworks. Again, thank you all for your contributions, and hope that you enjoy the event, and I wish you a great week ahead.
Thanks, Said. Before we conclude for today, I'd just like to take a moment to thank everyone who contributed to making this year's workshop happen. This includes not only my co-conveners, Jean-Pierre, Solon and Said, but also the co-chairs, Aditi and John, and also several members of BIICL's events and marketing teams, in particular Liam, Bradley and Carmel. These workshops are really important collaboration between BIICL and SLS, and I'm incredibly grateful for the hard work and time that all of you put in to make sure today's event came together and went as smoothly as it did. And last but obviously not least, I would like to thank each of the panelists for their fantastic presentations, and everyone who attended and contributed to the enriching and interesting discussions that we had over the course of today. I hope you all enjoyed this year's workshop and took away from it as much as I did. So thank you all again for your attendance and participation, and we look forward to seeing you again at next year's workshop. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.